What is going on, pro wrestling fans? Welcome back to the J Area. My name is Jose Ramos Jr. And at the time of this upload for this video, obviously WWE is holding its newest iteration of the Crown Jewel event, but that's not going to be the topic of discussion when it comes to this video. If you saw the title, you saw the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about All Elite Wrestling. This past Wednesday, we had Fright Night Dynamite, which was their take on Halloween episode for AEW Dynamite, and a couple of noteworthy events that had occurred on that episode of Dynamite. Obviously, the biggest news coming out of Dynamite this week was the signing of the almighty Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley, a former WWE champion, ECW champion, Impact champion. He's been a champion wherever he goes. He's one of the premier athletes, not only in professional wrestling, but in combat sports. Obviously, if you had been keeping up with AEW, you saw the debut of MVP followed by Shelton Benjamin. You kind of got the sense that there was this feeling that maybe the Hurt Business, I think now known as the Hurt Syndicate, they're now coming back together at this time in All Elite Wrestling. And of course, you have MVP. You have Shelton Benjamin. Who else are you missing? Bobby Lashley, the main man himself. So when we heard that the matchup between Swerve Strickland and Shelton Benjamin was scheduled to take place on Dynamite, a lot of people, myself included, I think that's where we decided, hey, if he's going to debut, it's probably going to be here at this event. And he was. It was correct. Obviously, Swerve Strickland and Shelton Benjamin putting on a fantastic matchup. What more would you expect from these two high caliber athletes? But again, it's the angle that follows the matchup that really is the news. Bobby Lashley comes out after MVP makes a phone call talking to a mysterious individual, of course via phone, and basically tells him it's time to come out. Bobby Lashley comes out. He, along with Shelton and MVP, they waste no time in laying out Swerve Strickland, demonstrating that they mean business, no pun intended. Now, what I like about this is it's a fresh start to AEW, right? We are in a midst of a changing of the guard when it comes to All Elite Wrestling. Obviously, you take a look at what Moxley and the BCC have been doing with the baby faces at this time, trying to revitalize a little bit of a sense of urgency in the AEW locker room, and combine that with Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, MVP, now running mayhem as the Hurt Syndicate. It opens up an opportunity for a lot of fresh matches, fresh storylines, promos, angles. Like I said, it's just a way to jumpstart the creative process within All Elite Wrestling. Bobby Lashley versus Swerve Strickland surely will be a fantastic matchup. I expect nothing less. I'm thinking it's probably going to be taking place at AEW Full Gear, but then you look just at the wide array of talent that Bobby Lashley has to work with. So many individuals that he has not gotten in the ring with. Maybe he has gone in the past, but it's a great restart for Bobby Lashley, who, by the way, he made his WWE debut in 2005, the fall of '05. 20 years now, and the man has not aged a day. He moves like a champion, he acts like a champion, and before you know it, Bobby Lashley will probably have some type of gold around his waist in All Elite Wrestling. But that wouldn't be the only news regarding gold on this episode of Dynamite. We had a fun surprise here as Private Party defeats the Young Bucks, Nicholas and Matthew Jackson, finally, for the Tag Team Championships. The Young Bucks have been the champions since AEW Dynasty all the way back in the spring. And for me personally, this is my personal opinion, I was growing tiresome of this title reign. There was no news, there was no evolution, there was no development. The Young Bucks, yes, we know, are the premier tag team in the company, but they don't necessarily need the titles. Now, the argument can be made that that's just a good way to get heat, and people are getting tired of them. They want to see the babyfaces get over, which they were able to successfully do. I think you were towing that line of good heat and go away heat when it came to the Young Bucks. But the win that Private Party had was euphoric. You could feel it in the crowd. I can't recall the last time an AEW audience, especially on Dynamite alone, had popped the way they popped when Private Party won the tag team championships. It was a great moment, a great decision on AEW's part to finally reward Cassidy and Quinn for all their hard work in AEW, being, one of the originals in All Elite Wrestling. Again, a great moment to see them catapulted to the main spot in the tag team division. I'm looking forward to what they do in the tag team division, the matches that they're able to put on now that they're in the highlighted spot in the division. The next question we have to ask, though, is what's next for the Young Bucks? Because the Young Bucks had been one of the main fixtures of the heel side of the locker room when it came to their partnership within the Elite with guys like Okada and Jack Perry. If you remember, all the way back in the spring around NFL draft time, because that's when Tony Khan was wearing that neck brace, if you remember, they attacked Tony Khan and they basically hinted at a takeover of the company. That never really came to fruition. It was kind of a start-stop type of an issue, and we never really saw what was going to be the next step in that storyline. Now that we have Moxley and the BCC running roughshod all over All Elite Wrestling, they want to take a step back. And for me, I'm looking at it at the sense of, wouldn't the Young Bucks have some type of involvement when it came to this story? On both sides. Whether you want to look at it from the sense of, hey, they should be helping Team AEW because they were the ones that built AEW. They, along with Kenny, along with Cody and Tony Khan, collectively created All Elite Wrestling. So why wouldn't they want to defend that against these outsiders like the BCC? Because keep in mind, they had created All Elite Wrestling prior to the BCC. All In took place in September of 2018, where Claudio, Pac, you had Moxley, all of them were in WWE. They weren't with AEW. They're not originals. The Young Bucks should be defending that against them. Or if you want to play it the more interesting route, I think it would have been interesting had they sided with the BCC, the Elite and the BCC, forming this collective super group to fight off all of AEW because they are not living up to the expectations that they all believe have been set in place. Instead, rather, AEW is running the angle where the Young Bucks are going to be taking some time off. And you can already see where this is going. The Young Bucks take some time off, and eventually they're going to return as baby faces, and they're going to have them help the baby faces defeat BCC, regaining control of AEW. I don't know if that's the smart play right now, but who's to say that doesn't change in some time? Professional wrestling is an ever-evolving show, so who's to say that this doesn't work, right? That's why you got to watch it, and you got to make sure you keep up with it, because things change. Plans change all the time. But I think that's the plan that we're going with right now. Young Bucks are going to leave, come back as baby faces, and eventually help the locker room dispose of the Blackpool Combat Club. But of course, when we're talking about coming together and helping one another to defeat a common enemy, the premier story right now is Jon Moxley. And his next opponent, it's been revealed. Orange Cassidy has challenged Jon Moxley to a match for the AEW World Championship. Orange Cassidy is one of those individuals who's very aloof, very nonchalant, doesn't really express a lot of emotion, doesn't really express a lot of frustration or anger. He's very just a chill guy. But these last couple of weeks, that has not been the case. And when you saw the attack on Chuck Taylor, one of his closest friends, that sends him over the edge. And now Orange Cassidy, he's out for blood. He wants to defeat Jon Moxley. He wants to regain control over AEW and give it back to the people, rather than this group of vigilantes in their own right. They believe they're doing justice by the AEW locker room. It's a callback to their match at AEW All Out, where Moxley had defeated at that time the international champion Orange Cassidy for the title. We now get the rematch here for the world title. I think it's safe to say Cassidy probably won't win this matchup, because I think the bigger baby face that will defeat Moxley has to be Darby Allin. And Darby Allin had a fantastic little moment there where he came down from the rafters. Again, very symbolic, very reminiscent of the icon Sting, who had his own run-in with a faction in the NWO. You can see these little details, and I appreciate that as a pro wrestling historian, where you look at all these different, iterations of the same story. They say that history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. And I feel like when we're looking at what's occurring with AEW and the BCC, it's not too dissimilar to the NWO and WCW. And Darby Allin is our Sting. He should be the individual to defeat Jon Moxley. But again, not his time yet. First, Orange Cassidy is going to get a crack at Jon Moxley. We'll see how that match goes. I'm fairly confident that Moxley will emerge victorious, but I would love to hear your guys' hype and your anticipation levels in terms to the ongoing developments regarding the BCC, Jon Moxley, and Orange Cassidy. Please go ahead and like the video, comment down below, and don't forget to super kick that subscribe button to keep up to date with all the videos regarding pro wrestling. Of course, with all that being said, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you for stopping by in today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.